When Jared and Klein found each other on the dating app Tinder, they hadn't exchanged more than 5 messages when Jared realized this beautiful, long-haired girl was no more than 17 years old, and after he learned how old she was, he cut off contact with her messages he quickly forgot. But who could have guessed those 5 messages would change his destiny and come back to seize him? 5 messages that turned into a tragedy for Jared and his family. 5 messages that one day would become the headline of all the news in America. As for me, when I listened to this case for the first time, it never crossed my mind it could have had such an ending. From the time Jared was a little boy, he knew exactly what he wanted to be in the future. He always wanted to be a soldier, because his grandfather and his uncle were soldiers too. From the moment the Twin Towers in New York were attacked and he saw it live on television, he decided to join the army as a soldier and defend his country. A career choice his mother accepted with worry, because she wasn't sure the army could be a good place for her son. She believed her son was very sensitive and more inclined to sing in the choir than to hold a weapon. But Jared's choice was what it was. He wanted to join the army. He wanted to be like a hero who fights for his country and builds his future. Like many of his classmates at school, after finishing his studies in 2012, he registered for the military. The beginning of his service was exactly what he wanted. He was having a great time, and he spent his free time recording videos for YouTube. He didn't set aside his talent and hobby singing even in the barracks. Whenever he found the time, while wearing his army uniform, he would sing famous songs for his friends on his channel like Wonderwall and his favorite, Drops of Jupiter. Or he would, for example, tell on his channel how he had been transferred to the American base in Germany and why his girlfriend had broken up with him. In general, you could clearly sense his kind and friendly side on his channel. Everything was going well until he was sent to Afghanistan as an armored guard. That period was very dramatic for him because of the scenes he saw in war, and even 2 of his comrades lost their lives in rocket attacks. For example, once in a clash they came under heavy attack. Jared was so scared that he was firing his weapon recklessly in all directions, without any focus. Later he would say the scariest moments of his life were right then, and he always thought to himself that, in those aimless shots, maybe he had killed a child, because it was very common for the Taliban to use children in their wars. After about 6 months, Jared's mission ended involuntarily. When he was getting out of an armored vehicle, he accidentally fell so badly that he injured his back and could no longer continue his service. Overnight, all his dreams of being in the army were ruined. He had built his entire life on serving in the army, and now this dream suddenly collapsed as if the earth had opened its mouth and swallowed his dreams. When Jared returned to his hometown, Greenville in South Carolina, he felt like a loser who had fallen back. To cope more easily with the situation, he started drinking alcohol. In a one-night stand, a single-night date, he had a sexual relationship with a girl, and the girl became pregnant. Because of that, Jared tried to take his own life with a few pills. He was constantly having panic attacks and nightmares. Because of things that happened during his service, he had also developed post-traumatic stress disorder. In America, many soldiers returning from war felt abandoned by the system and left alone. They had to decide to spend the rest of their lives doing smaller jobs. Maybe to them nothing could ever again be more serious and important than war and defense. Of course, this could be the very suggestion that has drawn soldiers to battlefields throughout history and made them willing to sacrifice their lives, even if that war is outside their own soil and in fact an invasion rather than defense of the homeland. Anyway, about 3 years later, in 2018, it seemed Jared's life was gradually returning to normal. He adopted a dog that made his life much happier. He even managed to find a girlfriend. And he got a job at the telecom company Telcom. His brother and mother always tried to pull him out of his dark mental space. For example, he always went out with his brother Jacob, and every week they would arrange to go to their mother's place. And from there, they would go together to a karaoke bar, and every week, Jared would sing his favorite song Drops of Jupiter there. After a while, his girlfriend unintentionally became pregnant. But 24-year-old Jared was very happy this time because he hadn't had the chance to see his first child at all. For that reason, he wanted to be a good father for this baby. But after a while, his relationship with this girlfriend also ended. And this was another big failure in Jared's life. After some time, he started trying again. And on a website called Tinder, he was scrolling through girls' profiles, hoping to get lucky. He happened to meet a girl named Laura. But that relationship was so superficial for him that he was still looking for other cases and was in contact with other girls. And this was exactly his big mistake. It was early September 2018, and as usual, Jared was looking for a good case on Tinder. There, he got to know a young girl named Caroline. They exchanged phone numbers and sent each other photos. Jared sent a photo of himself wearing a baseball cap, and Caroline replied with a photo in underwear, and they started chatting. "I'm a soldier," he wrote, "and the father of 3 kids actually. If you want to count properly, my relationship with the mother of my newborn ended a short while ago. I'm looking for a friend to spend time with. And well, maybe our relationship could get more serious." Caroline replied, "I live with my parents too. But in a little while I'll turn 18, Jared said. "Cool, when?" "On the 15th, Caroline said. Jared asked, "September?" Caroline answered, "Yeah," and then he asked her, "How old are you?" Jared told her, "Do you still go to high school?" "I'm 24. And with that sentence, the conversation between the two ended for Jared. Caroline was too young, and in the following days he saw no reason to have any more contact with her until September 10th, when he was walking down the street with Laura, who by now was just his close friend, and suddenly he received a strange phone call. That ring immediately gave him a bad feeling. A police officer was on the other end. Caroline's family had found out about their chat and filed a complaint against Jared, claiming he had tried to approach their underage daughter sexually. Jared was completely shaken and didn't understand what was going on because it was Caroline who had sent the semi-nude photo herself, and Jared had never made any such request. And after exchanging a few lines, he had dropped the girl altogether. The officer also gave him the family's phone number, so he might be able to convince them he hadn't done anything improper and settle the matter. Even Laura, who was hearing this as it happened, couldn't believe Caroline's family would sue Jared over a few messages. She tried very hard to calm Jared, but she couldn't. Jared was confused and dazed, and he kept repeating, "What did I even do?" Was that one photo enough for them to file a complaint against Jared? Over a semi-nude photo from a girl under the legal age, was his life about to be thrown into turmoil again? If they did file a complaint, what could happen to him? When Jared called the girl's family, Caroline's father, named James Harris, answered. He told Jared that Caroline's mother was very upset and absolutely wouldn't back down and wanted to press charges. After that phone call, Jared wondered to himself, is it possible someone is playing a bad joke on me? Or are the Harris family serious, and they're going to sue me over just 5 messages? Jared even Googled the number of the police officer who had given him the family's number. He saw it was real, and that the man truly was a cop, and there was no way this was a prank. After it was proven to him the story was serious, he texted Harris, Caroline's father, again and apologized. This time, the reply to Jared came from Caroline's mother. She wrote to him, "We canceled our daughter's phone line and were penalized for it, and you have to pay the money we paid to terminate the contract earlier than the due date. The cost," she said, was about $1,118. All that night, Jared tried to ease the tension between them with the texts he sent. "I don't even remember what I wrote to your daughter. I'm truly sorry from the bottom of my heart that such a thing happened. If I had known your daughter was underage, I would never have agreed for her to send me a photo. I myself have 2 children and can understand what someone might feel. In my text, I never asked your daughter for a photo." Caroline's mother replied to him, "Young man, you clearly read that she wrote she's underage. Don't act like you didn't know anything. I don't have the patience to argue with you now. I'm going to the police to file a complaint against you." Jared couldn't shut his eyes that whole night. 1,000 thoughts passed through his head. What would happen if the police opened a case and investigated him? And if they convicted him over illegal photos of minors? He could even get labeled as a child abuser or a pedophile. And what devastating effect could all this have on his life and his children? Maybe they'd never allow him to see his kids. Lara stayed with Jared the whole night because she wanted to calm him. But the next day, September 11th, 2018, she had to go to work. She suggested Jared take the day off, stay home, and try to calm his mind. In the end, with tearful eyes, Jared said goodbye to Lara. He couldn't think about anything other than this story and texted Caroline's family again, asking to meet them in person to talk. Waiting anxiously for their answer, he finally received a message at 11:59 a.m. James Harris wrote back, "I don't even know what you want to talk to us about. You saw her photo, my daughter's photo. And I don't feel sorry for you because you knew what you were doing. I only feel sorry for your 2 kids." Jared replied, "What do you mean?" He said, "We're going to the police with Caroline now and will officially file a complaint against you. There's a very good chance you'll end up in prison." Around 6 p.m., Jared's brother Jacob went to check on him because he hadn't heard from Jared all day. Normally they were in touch a lot, but that day Jacob hadn't received any text from Jared. When he entered his brother's house, he immediately got a very bad feeling. Jared's dog ran toward Jacob, but there was no sign of his brother. A letter in the hallway caught his attention. On it was written, "I'm truly sorry. I ruined everything. I love you all. And I never wanted these things to happen. Tell my son I wasn't a bad man. With love, Jared." Worried, Jacob went into his brother's room and was met with a horrific scene. Jared was on his bed. At first glance it looked like he was asleep, but then he saw the gun in his hand and the blood splattered on the wall. Jared Jones, at the age of 24, shot himself and committed suicide, and this happened only minutes after the father of Caroline's text, threatening him with prison. For Jared's family, losing this family member was a huge shock. It was only because of Lara that they found out what had really happened. Lara immediately notified the police and gave them the information. The police seized Jared's phone, But about a week later, they returned the phone to the family. Only when the phone was in their hands did they see that before his suicide, Jared had recorded a video in it. Crying, he said how much he loved his siblings and how sorry he was, but he couldn't go on living like this. But his mother, Katie, went after the source of this incident and looked more into his phone. That's where she found the name of the person who had forced her son into suicide. In all her anger, she sent a message to the Klein family. "I am Jared Jones's mother, and I must speak with you, because he can't speak to you. Since he is dead, he took his own life. Did you know he was a former army soldier and fought in Afghanistan? And that because of the events of the war and his service he had developed post-traumatic stress disorder. And because of your threats that he was going to end up in prison, everything became too much for him. I hope your daughter understands what she did to my son's life and to his children. I will find you eventually, and my curse will always be with you for what you did to our family." It didn't take even half an hour for her to get a reply from James Harris. "Ma'am, I'm truly sorry for the loss of your son, but he had no right to be texting our daughter. I spoke with a detective today and settled this story, and I'm sure you wouldn't want me to report to the police the threat you made today." Katie, in response, sent photos and videos from the funeral. The picture of Jackson, Jared's son, crying over his father's casket, and how his brother sang Jared's favorite song, "Drops of Jupiter," and those hundreds of people who were there crying for him. After that, Katie got no reply. A month after the suicide, a local newspaper printed a story about Jared and his untimely death. Jared's mother took a picture of the newspaper and sent it to James Harris, and wrote underneath, "I hope the bad feeling of this great guilt always stays with you." But again, she received no response. Instead, a few days later, on Facebook she got a friend request from an unknown person, with a message, "You don't know me, but I know you are mourning. Someone who knows why Jared committed suicide asked me to contact you, because he himself is not in a position to contact you. He doesn't know you or your son, but he knows the people who dragged Jared into death. He can help you catch these people." Katie couldn't understand what this stranger wanted and couldn't quite believe him until the stranger shared something unbelievable. "There is no Carolyn at all. There is no family named Harris wanting to sue your son. Jared had fallen victim to an unbelievable scam." Since 2015 until now, there's an American platform called DailyScam.com that focuses on fraud, and unfortunately its work has always followed an upward trend. To this day, it has recorded thousands of fraud cases. The thing is, in the past most victims were elderly people scammed by repairmen, relatives, or companies with baseless contracts. But today, young people are also victims, especially of online scams. Interestingly, about 800 men introduced themselves on the Daily Scam website as having been scammed, and all of them reported a case similar to Caroline's. They had all met a beautiful, tall girl there who later introduced herself as an underage teenager. After that, a fake police officer or fake parents would show up claiming, for example, that out of anger over their daughter's relationship with an older guy, they smashed her phone and now the victim had to pay for it. Or, like in Jared's case, they canceled the phone contract early, and the victim had to pay a big penalty if these young men refused to pay. They were threatened with police complaints and charges, even if they did pay. After a while, the scammers would demand more money, like, "Our daughter is in very bad mental shape and needs therapy," or "Our daughter committed suicide and we need a lot of money for the funeral." Usually the victims were more afraid and forced to pay. But the strange point is that most of these young men were either active duty soldiers or former soldiers, because apparently this group was a juicy target for scammers, if soldiers were still in service and received such a message. Out of fear they wouldn't know what the right thing to do was. Maybe no one in the barracks would believe them, or shamelessly they might even be discharged. Even former soldiers like Jared had this fear, because they were much more psychologically vulnerable. Many of them suffered from PTSD and had intense anxiety, and were very weak against fraud. The reality is that even the police department has a hard time fighting these crimes, because with software, they can even spoof their phone numbers to appear as the local police. Despite all these problems, in November 2018, the police finally reached a definitive result in this case, and the news literally exploded and became a big headline. 5 men were behind about 442 scams, but those people were in places no one would ever have imagined. Can you guess where? A prison in South Carolina, exactly the place the informant told Jared's mother, Katie. Despite strict prison supervision, phones were being smuggled into the prison. That in itself isn't unusual. But why this pattern was happening in many different prisons, and with a single goal, was unclear to the police. Were they all part of one gang, or was it just a common method of fraud in different prisons? The informant passed on what he knew to the police under the pretext of a visit to the prison doctor, and the police understood what was going on and who was involved. The 2 men were named John Dobbins and Carl Smith, people serving time at Lee Correctional Institution. These 2 were behind the profile of the 17-year-old Caroline. One of the men was 43 and the other 59. They were in prison for drugs and assault, of course. Both denied the charges, but the evidence was strongly against them. When they were messaging Jared, their phone data showed connections to the cell tower of that same prison, and that's how they were tracked. In their cell, phones were found with which they had sent many messages to fraud victims. They were so confident in what they were doing that they had even used those phones to contact their own relatives. In short, on May 10, 2019, after months of investigation and thanks to the prison informant, Greenville police announced that the case of Jared Jones's death was completely solved and closed. In May 2021, Carl Smith tried to make a deal with the prosecutor. He was willing to admit to the fraud regarding Jared in exchange for not receiving additional charges. In May 2022, John Dobbins, recognized as the leader of this 2-man group, was sentenced to 10 years in prison. But for Jared's family, losing this family member is still unbelievable to this day. In an interview, Jared's mother, with tearful eyes, said, "It's true the gun was in Jared's hand, but those 2 men pulled the trigger." We're always afraid and worried that the men who caused us to lose our son will be released from prison soon. Even his brother Jacob, because of losing his brother, suffered spiritually. He lost his job and fell into depression. He even thought about suicide multiple times, because it was so painful for him to bear losing his brother, and to see how Jared's son was growing up without his father. He always remembers how many days they talked together and what good memories they had at karaoke bars. What happy moments they shared, moments that will never be repeated. He always hums his brother's favorite song, Drops of Jupiter. Now there are many videos of Jared on YouTube from the good days of his military service where he sang, and they revive his memories in the minds of friends and acquaintances. And that's our strange case for today. Please write your opinion about this case for me. I really want to know what you think. Also, don't forget to like. Thank you.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at a really difficult story. It's about how 5 short messages on a dating app, on Tinder, tragically changed a man's life forever.
It's a devastating case, really. We're talking about Jared Jones, a veteran. And our mission here is to, dig into how his personal vulnerabilities, his history, intersected with these specific digital criminal tactics.
Yeah, it wasn't just random. It led to a truly national tragedy. So the basic outline is this. Jared, he's 24, matches with someone called Caroline.
He finds out she's only 17.
Right. So he does what you'd hope someone would do. He cuts off contact immediately. Says she's too young.
But that wasn't the end of it. Soon after, he gets contacted by her supposed family.
The Harris family. And they're not just upset, they're threatening him. They demand money, saying they'll go to the police, accuse him of approaching a minor.
It's horrific. So to really understand how this could happen, we need to look at Jared himself. What was his path?
It's quite something. He always wanted to be a soldier. It was his dream, apparently influenced by family history and galvanized by 9/11.
Which is interesting because his own mother felt he was quite sensitive. She apparently said he was maybe more inclined to sing in the choir.
He seemed like a really personable guy. He enlists in 2012, and for a while, things seem okay. Our sources mention he even had a YouTube channel.
Yeah, singing in his uniform, songs like Drops of Jupiter, Wonderwall. It paints a picture of someone finding their place, feeling connected.
But then came Afghanistan, a 6-month tour that seems to have completely broken that sense of purpose.
Absolutely. Just horrific experiences, rocket attacks, losing 2 comrades. Unimaginable stuff.
And there was this specific incident, wasn't there? A heavy firefight where he felt he just fired recklessly.
Yes, and the guilt from that haunted him. He had this recurring fear, this deep anxiety that in that chaos, he might have shot a child.
Because the Taliban were known to use children in conflict zones.
Oh, man. Exactly. And this is crucial for understanding his later vulnerability. It wasn't just general PTSD, though he certainly had that. It was this profound, specific guilt.
So this deep-seated guilt, plus this need to be seen as, honorable,
made him incredibly susceptible to the kind of threat that came later. The fear wasn't just prison. It was being publicly branded a monster. It weaponized his deepest anxieties.
And then his military career itself just evaporated. Not by choice.
No, an injury. Fell out of an armored vehicle, hurt his back, his whole planned future just gone overnight. Involuntary discharge.
So he ends up back home, Greenville, South Carolina, and he feels like a failure, like a loser in his own words, apparently.
It's that feeling of abandonment so many veterans face.
Yeah.
PTSD sets in hard. Panic attacks, nightmares. The sources mentioned he struggled, turned to drinking.
There was even an earlier suicide attempt mentioned after an accidental pregnancy.
Yeah, so he was clearly in a very precarious state for a long time before this Tinder incident even happened.
But, people fight back. By 2018, it sounds like he was really trying to pull things together.
He was. Adopted a dog, got a job at Telcom, had this weekly karaoke night with his brother Jacob.
Always singing Drops of Jupiter. That song again. It's like a little anchor for him.
Seems like it. He had another relationship, was happy about expecting his second child, though sadly he wouldn't get to see them. He was trying to build connections.
Which naturally leads people to things like dating apps. So September 2018, Tinder.
Right. He matches with Caroline. His profile is straightforward soldier, father, looking for friendship or maybe something serious.
And during their chat, she drops this key piece of info, lives with parents, but turning 18 very soon on the 15th of September.
So Jared, who's 24, asks point blank, "How old are you?" She confirms she's 17.
And he immediately ends the conversation, judges her too young, full stop.
And this part is critical. Our sources emphasize that while she had sent a semi-nude photo at some point, Jared never requested it.
He wasn't grooming her or anything like that. He was actively trying to disengage because of her age.
Exactly. His intent seems clear. Do the right thing, back away.
Which makes what happened next just gut-wrenching. Only a few days later, September 10th, he's out walking with a friend, Laura.
And gets this bizarre phone call. A guy claiming to be a police officer.
Saying Caroline's family, the Harrises, have filed a complaint against him. Can you imagine the shock?
It's pure manipulation. The officer even gives him the family's number. suggesting he try to sort it out privately.
So he calls, and the mother on the line is just cold, insistent, they're pressing charges.
But then comes the hook, the demand. It's not some huge random sum. It's $1,118.
Specifically, they claim, to cover the penalty for canceling Caroline's phone contract early because of this incident.
That specificity is key, isn't it? It sounds almost bureaucratic, legit, designed to make him think paying this small fixed fee will make the whole nightmare disappear.
Jared is understandably freaking out. He's texting apologies, trying to explain he backed off. He wouldn't have wanted the photo if he knew her age.
But the mother's reply is just brutal. Don't act like you didn't know anything. Just twisting the knife, playing on any possible insecurity he might have.
For someone like Jared, with his PTSD, his guilt, his fear of judgment, this threat being labeled a child abuser.
It's not just jail time he's afraid of. It's total social ruin, losing access to his kids. It's a psychological kill shot. It targets everything he's afraid of.
The pressure just ramps up. September 11th now, he's in crisis all day. Texts the supposed father, James Harris, begging to meet, to explain.
And the father's response, just before noon, it's pure cruelty. I only feel sorry for your 2 kids.
Oh God, right at his most vulnerable point, his children.
Total manipulation. And then the final blow comes late that afternoon, minutes before 6 p.m.
Another text from the father saying they're officially filing the complaint now, and that there's a very good chance you'll end up in prison.
Just definitive. No more negotiation. The threat is absolute.
And minutes later, his brother Jacob finds him. He'd gone to check on Jared, found a note.
I'm truly sorry I ruined everything. Tell my son I wasn't a bad man.
Jacob found Jared. He had taken his own life just minutes after that final text landed.
Believing he'd ruined everything, when in reality, he was the victim.
Yeah.
Caught in what one source rightly called an unbelievable scam.
The investigation into who was really behind this only started after his death. His poor mother, Katie, she actually messaged the Harris family in her grief and anger.
And got a threat back. James Harris threatened to report her message to the police. The sheer audacity is just staggering.
But then came a breakthrough, didn't it, from an unexpected place?
Yeah, social media. A stranger reached out to Katie on Facebook, someone who recognized the pattern. They told her, basically, there is no Caroline. There's no Harris family trying to sue. Your son was scammed.
And this wasn't some one-off thing. This was part of a much bigger pattern.
Exactly. Our sources mention websites like dailyscam.com, which were tracking literally thousands of similar reports. It wasn't just older people getting scammed anymore. Younger people were targets too.
And the method, the modus operandi, it was chillingly consistent across these cases.
Disturbingly so. Daily Scam reportedly had something like 800 men describing the exact same script.
Let me guess. Attractive girl online.
Check. Reveals she's underage, often just about to turn 18.
And bam, fake police or angry parents show up.
Check. And the demand.
Yeah.
Almost always money for a broken phone or a canceled phone contract. That specific, plausible-sounding fee.
That detail about the phone contract fee is fascinating. It feels so calculated.
It really is. It avoids sounding like simple extortion. It offers a seemingly simple, contained solution. Pay this specific bill, and the problem goes away. It stops victims from calling real lawyers or police.
But it often didn't stop there, did it? If they paid.
The scammers would frequently escalate, ask for more money, maybe for therapy, for the distraught girl, or even, appallingly, for funeral costs, claiming the girl had killed herself over the interaction. Just layer upon layer of psychological torture.
Unbelievable cruelty. And you said earlier, soldiers and veterans were prime targets, described as juicy targets. Why them specifically?
It's that perfect storm we talked about. They often carry significant psychological burdens, PTSD, anxiety, guilt. Combine that with an intense fear of scandal.
If they're active duty, a complaint like this could mean discharge, ruining their career.
Exactly. And for veterans like Jared, the threat of being labeled a predator, losing access to their children, facing legal charges, it hits all their deepest fears. It ensures panic and increases the chance they'll pay quickly without thinking clearly.
Okay, so the scam is widespread, the method is clear, but the investigation eventually uncovered who was doing this. And the location, this is the part that just blows my mind.
It's genuinely shocking. November 2018, the police announced they've identified 5 men behind at least 442 of these scams. And they were operating from
Go on.
inside Lee Correctional Institution, a maximum security prison in South Carolina.
Wait, from inside a maximum security prison, how is that even possible? Don't they have jammers? Security?
Well, that's the alarming part. It points to massive failures within the system. They weren't using super sophisticated hacking. They were using basic tools, smuggled cell phones.
Smuggled in. So either staff complicity or just inadequate security.
Likely a combination. The cell tower data placed them smack bang inside the prison walls while they were sending these messages, running these scams. Sometimes they'd even use the same smuggled phones to call their own families.
Orchestrating hundreds of cases of fraud, leading to at least one death we know of from behind bars meant to contain them. That's terrifying.
It really is. An informant inside eventually helped pinpoint the ringleaders, a guy named John Dobbins, 59, and Carl Smith, 43.
Did they face consequences for this specific crime beyond their original sentences?
Yes, eventually. Justice moves slowly. Dobbins, the apparent leader, got an additional 10 years in May 2022 for the scheme. Smith was reportedly attempting a plea deal.
But 10 years? Does that feel like justice, given the outcome for Jared? His family certainly doesn't think so.
No, and the impact ripples outwards. Jared's mother, Katie, her words just stick with you. It's true the gun was in Jared's hand, but those two men pulled the trigger.
And his brother, Jacob, the karaoke partner.
He struggled immensely. Depression, lost his job, even faced his own suicidal thoughts. His connection to Jared, that song, Drops of Jupiter, became this source of painful memory. He'd just hum it.
So, looking back at this whole deep dive, what are the major takeaways for you?
I mean, first, the profound vulnerability of people carrying trauma, especially veterans like Jared. Second, how incredibly easy it is to fake identities online and exploit those vulnerabilities. And third, the sheer power of social shame as a weapon, the fear of being labeled something monstrous.
And the fact that the perpetrators were already incarcerated just adds this whole other layer.
Right. Which brings us to the really unsettling question for you, the listener, to think about. These guys ran hundreds of scams, caused immense harm, potentially multiple deaths, all from inside a supposedly secure prison.
So, if the system struggles to stop this kind of sophisticated digital crime, even within its own controlled walls, what does that mean for the rest of us, for online safety in general?
Where should we even focus our efforts? Is it about better protecting the psychologically vulnerable from these targeted attacks? Or is it about somehow making our highest security facilities actually secure?
It really makes you consider the hidden dangers. They aren't just lurking out there on the anonymous web. Sometimes they're organized and operating from places we assume are completely under control. A truly sobering thought.